We all know that love can be complicated, right? Well, that went double in ancient Greece, because the gods were a really fickle bunch, with motives ranging from jealousy to boredom. Not to mention Cupid just zipping around shooting people with a bow for fun. These nosy deities seemed to like nothing more than to interfere with the lives of mortals. At any moment, the gods could strike you, and you would find yourself smitten. But to who, or even to what, could be quite up in the air. And today's campfire tale involves one of those strange divine love connections between the sculptor Pygmalion and his statue, giving new credence to the phrase, "Finding love is really hard." Thanks so much to GiveWell for helping everyone find highly effective charities and making sure our donation dollars go further. It all started with the biggest scandal ever to hit Cyprus. See, down at the docks, right, there were these women who, get this, would have sex for money. I know! I mean, that has never happened in the history of the world, like literally, right? Well, according to this Greek myth, these were the first prostitutes ever. So the great king and sculptor Pygmalion went to see them. For research, of course. I mean, after all, he was a man of high moral standing. But when he arrived, what he saw shook him to the core. See, Pygmalion was a virgin, and sex, well, it was not like what he imagined. And it was then Pygmalion decided that he was having absolutely none of it. Nope, sexy time not for him. He would remain celibate forever. In fact, just to be safe, he should probably avoid women in all capacities forever. Oh, and he wouldn't go outside anymore either. You know, real mature adult decisions. But even though he had sworn off women and took great lengths to avoid them totally in his daily life, he actually couldn't avoid them all. Because you see, every night, he would dream of a very specific figure. She didn't have a name, but somehow he knew her. Every night, as exhaustion overtook Pygmalion's mind, she would appear from the dreamy mists, calling out to him not with words, but with a piercing look or a flick of her hand. And Pygmalion would follow, because with this mystery woman, for some reason, he was unafraid. In his dreams, he knew she was perfect. So then, as you can imagine, every morning he'd wake in frustration, having to spend another day fearful of the outside and all of the scary real women who lived out there. To ease his sorrow, he turned to his work. But even the meticulous planning of future statues and the intense precision of molding materials was not enough to distract him for long. Inevitably, Pygmalion's mind would drift towards the woman from his dreams as he chiseled the day away, the ivory slowly taking its shape. The next thing he knew, the sun was beginning to set. And it was then, under the orange glow of day's end, that suddenly he saw the perfect woman before him, carved in ivory. Pygmalion stared in amazement. She was ivory, right? After all, he didn't fully remember carving this, but if it was a real woman, oh no. He felt something stirring inside of him, a type of longing he didn't fully understand. So he collected himself and did the mature thing. Hid from the statue and went to bed. And for once, he didn't dream. The next morning, the ivory figure was still exactly where he'd left it. He stared, more enraptured than he could have ever imagined until... Wait, hold on. Did her arm just move? No, of course not. Trick of the light or something. Whew. So he moved her to a better vantage point. She really was something, he thought. More beautiful than any woman he'd ever known. And with it, with her. Well, maybe physical intimacy wouldn't be so bad. Longingly, he reached out and touched her arm, surprised to find it softer than he imagined. And at this point, imagine he did. Eventually, he was so smitten with his statue that he leaned in and kissed it, fully expecting warm, soft lips, but that's still solid ivory. And upon feeling this hard physical rejection, Pygmalion became ashamed. Oh, how stupid he'd been to think he could fall in love with anything, especially a statue. Fighting back tears, he yet again went to bed. But this night was not all sadness. Unbidden, the woman from his dreams, whom he'd carved in ivory, returned to him. And although she still said nothing, her presence alone was enough to rouse Pygmalion from his self-loathing until the morning light once again swept her away. Except she wasn't really gone, was she? Okay, this cycle of self-doubt would have to change. If he was going to pour his love into something, he knew he would have to admit it. So starting today, he was going to court her properly. So he pulled up a stool beside his inanimate love and began to recite platitudes. And then, when he thought she seemed to get bored of those, he started telling stories. Of course, whether she liked those more, he couldn't really tell, on account of the still face. But Pygmalion honestly didn't mind. He just liked her company. But then when she didn't respond to even his funniest tales, he got a little discouraged. Not enough to stop, of course. Oh no. Instead, he then decided to shower the statue with gifts. He began decorating the statue with speckled shells, gems, and amber. No response. He offered rainbow birds in pretty cages. Still nothing. So he wiped the statue clean, and then, for the first time actually, became amazed at the nakedness of the ivory figure. Oh, wait, no, that made Pygmalion blush. He quickly wrapped her in a blanket, and upon stepping back, he found the material was much too coarse for the delicate, air quotes, skin. So instead, he dressed the statue in the latest fashions, adorned her hands with costly rings, and around her neck, he gave her a string of bright pearls. But even the white of those pearls seemed dull next to her ivory, air quotes, complexion, so eventually he removed it all once more and decided not to let anything mar her natural beauty. Then he took the statue and laid it on a couch. He propped her up with the finest pillows only of the highest thread count and offered her sweet nothings while caressing her. And when he finally worked up the nerve, he embraced her. And in that moment, everything felt right. Gripping tightly the ivory statue, Pygmalion's heart swelled. He was in love. At least he thought it was love. I mean, can you really be in love with the statue? Oh, Pygmalion couldn't be sure. But wait a minute. You know who does know about love? Aphrodite. So the next day he went to her temple to figure this whole thing out. Oh, goddess of love, he prayed. I think I'm ready. Please, send me... Before he could finish, doubt took hold. And once again ashamed of the object of his love and his own needs, Pygmalion rushed home. And once his eyes fell again upon his obsession, exactly where he'd left her, he dove onto the couch and embraced her and wait, what's this? He sprang up immediately as if stung. Cautiously, he reached out and prodded the statue again, and it felt softer than he'd remembered it. But he'd been fooled before, so this time he'd reach out with his whole hand and lightly squeeze the soft ivory. Oh God, he wasn't imagining it. The statue was indeed softer. Could it be true? Hardly daring to believe, Pygmalion ignored all reason, puckered up, and kissed the figure before him. And this time, as two pairs of soft lips met, the statue opened her eyes for the first time. For you see, Aphrodite had heard Pygmalion's unspoken prayers long before he ever stepped foot in her temple, and she had seen him shy away from the world and knew exactly what he'd longed for: love. But then, in the way Greek gods do, she decided to have a little fun with him first. Because really, how often do you get to see someone fall completely head over heels in love with the statue, right? But in the end, after her silliness had run its course, she took a little pity and literally made love a little less hard. Which, ties quite nicely into this episode's sponsor, GiveWell, because their whole thing is helping you make your charitable choices easy and impactful. Because when you give to charity, do you know how much impact your donation has? Well, in 2007, a group of donors had that exact question. But then when they sought out information, they often just received cute pictures or unhelpful stories. And this led them to create GiveWell, an independent nonprofit that for the last 15 years has provided rigorous, transparent research about high-impact giving opportunities. All of their research and recommendations are absolutely free, which has led to over 100,000 donors using GiveWell. And evidence suggests that these donations will save over 150,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more. They'll even allocate your tax-deductible donation to the charity or fund you choose without taking a cut, just like they did with my donation to Helen Keller International's Vitamin A supplementation program. For real, I felt super confident after looking at all the research, and it was just an awesome experience. Not to mention, if you've never donated to a GiveWell charity before, your donation will be matched up to $100 before the end of the year, or as long as matching funds last. So to claim your match, go to givewell.org, and before checkout, pick YouTube from the How Did You Hear About Us drop-down menu, and enter extra credits to lock it all in. You can do all that right here, and then after you've done your good deed, why not check out another of our videos here? Thanks so much to Michael Hoggett, Kuya Koi, Joseph Lame, Easy Coin, Dominic Valenciana, Arcalite Games, Angelo Valenciana, and Ahmed Ziad Turk.